The U.S. generals and military leaders were in front of Congress on Tuesday to explain away the pullout debacle in Afghanistan, which is still not fully resolved. You still have Americans and people who helped the American military stuck in that country. To this day, you still have people stuck there. The media is completely silent about this. But 3-4 weeks after perhaps the greatest, one of the greatest U.S. military debacles in history, we finally got to hear from Milley, Austin, and Mackenzie, the military men, the generals who were supposedly in charge of the Afghan military pullout. 3-4 weeks after everything happened, we're finally hearing from these guys. No need to rush, Congress. No need to rush to get to the answer and to the bottom of things. Anyway, I'm going to play some videos of some various exchanges that took place on Tuesday, mostly between Mark Milley and Senator Tom Cotton. I'll also play some segments from Tucker Carlson tonight, who covered this story really well. He has a good take on what happened on Tuesday. But before I play those videos, just let me sum it up as to pretty much how things went down. This is how I would sum up all the events on Tuesday. Here comes the bus. Military, DC swamp, push Biden under that bus. That simple. That is exactly what happened in front of Congress on Tuesday. To paraphrase Milley, Austin, and Mackenzie, who were all, no doubt about it, they were all scripted and on the same page. This is what they basically told Congress. We warned Joe not to pull out. We warned Joe about the risks of pulling out. But Joe would not listen, so we just pulled out. That was pretty much everything that they said. And, that got me thinking, that's the beauty of having a president like Joe Biden for the deep state and for the swamp. The beauty of having someone like Joe is that the swamp can cause all kinds of chaos. They can F up all over the world, whether it be in Afghanistan or on the U.S. southern border. And when everything goes to shit, they can simply blame Joe Biden. Joe Biden, he's clueless. He has no idea what's happening from one day to the next, right? Just give him his ice cream and put him in the basement. Maybe pump him up with some drugs every now and then, so he can get in front of the press and give some scripted statements. But he has no idea what's going on. And so, the Democrats and their puppet media, well, when something goes wrong in one of their stupid plans, they can just simply say, oh, well, that's Scranton Joe for you. Golly gosh gee, that's Joe Biden. Oh, and if you question what's going on with Joe Biden's plans or some of his policy, well, then you're racist. And that's how they go. That's how they maneuver. And, then the American government, the DC swamp, they just proceed from one crisis to the next, one F up to the next. And that's the beauty of having Joe Biden as president, is when it all goes to crap, they throw Biden under the bus. The media covers for him. The Democrats cover for him. They just say, that's Scranton Joe for you, everybody. That's Joe Biden. Don't question what Joe Biden is doing or you're a racist. So here's what, and I'll play the videos right now, but first here's what Kayleigh McEnany said about the hearings. She summed it up like this in a tweet. Wow, Biden said no senior military leadership advised him to leave a troop presence in Afghanistan, according to Cotton. Military and Mackenzie confirmed they wanted a troop presence. Austin said their advice was received and considered for sure. Biden has some questions to answer. So that was a nice tweet from Kayleigh McEnany, but let's get real. Biden isn't going to answer for anything. They're going to cover up for him until they're ready to get rid of him. But for now, they're going to continue to cover up for him. Milley, Austin, Mackenzie, they're going to get promotions out of this. No doubt about it. Nothing's going to happen to them. Republicans are just as corrupt and just as bought off as the Democrats, especially when it comes to military stuff and military budgets. I mean, just literally, I think 2 days ago, they approved an increase of like 40 billion on top of the current military budget. So the military got more money from Congress, 40 billion more. Maybe that covers like half of the cost of those 80 billion in weapons that they left in Afghanistan. I don't know, but they got more money. Milley, McKenzie, Austin, they're fine. They're going to get a promotion. Eventually, they'll sit on the board of Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, maybe Netflix. Maybe they'll do like Obama and start a production company. So the one military guy that has been punished for this is Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller Jr. This is the guy that called out the military for the debacle. And he said that some people in the military, the top of the military rank, should be held accountable. And when he came out and said that, well, he lost his pension, he lost his benefits, and news came out the other day that he's being held in a military prison at this very moment. This has been confirmed by the Marine Corps. Man, America has just sunk to new lows. It's just terrible what's happened to this guy. This is the guy that is paying the price for all these top generals' mistakes. This is the guy that they're taking it out on, the guy that wants to call them out on this. So anyway, here are some videos, the exchanges that took place in Congress, and keep in mind as you watch these videos that this is all theater. Republicans will not do anything. This is just all optics. It's all show. And enjoy the videos.
General Milley, it's your testimony that you recommended 2,500 troops approximately stay in Afghanistan?
As I've said many times before this committee and other committees, I don't share my personal recommendations to the president, but I can tell you my personal opinion and my assessment if that's what you want.
Yes, please.
Yes, my assessment was back in the fall of 20, and it remained consistent throughout, that we should keep a steady state of 2,500, and it could bounce up to 3,500, maybe something like that, in order to move toward a negotiated, gated solution.
Did you ever present that assessment personally to President Biden?
I don't discuss exactly what my conversations are with the sitting president in the Oval Office, but I can tell you what my personal opinion was, and I'm always candid.
General McKenzie, do you share that assessment?
Senator, I do share that assessment.
Did you ever present that opinion personally to President Biden?
Again, I'm not going to be able to comment on those executive discussions.
Did General Miller ever present that opinion personally to President Biden?
I think it would be best to ask him. I believe that his opinion was well heard.
Secretary Austin, President Biden last month in an interview with George Stephanopoulos said that no military leader advised him to leave a small troop presence in Afghanistan. Is that true?
Senator Cotton, I believe that, well, first of all, I know the president to be an honest and forthright man. And secondly,
it's a simple question, Secretary Austin. He said no senior military leader advised him to leave a small troop presence behind. Is that true or not? Did these officer and General Miller's recommendations get to the president personally?
their input was received by the president and considered by the president for sure. In terms of what they specifically recommended, Senator, as they just said, they're not going to provide what they recommended in confidence.
I mean, it sounds to me, it's shocking to me. It sounds to me like maybe their best military advice was never presented personally to the President of the United States about such a highly consequential matter. General Milley, I can only conclude that your advice about staying in Afghanistan was rejected. I'm shocked to learn that your advice wasn't sought until August 25th on staying past the August 31 deadline. I understand that you're the principal military advisor, that you advise, you don't decide, the President decides. But if all this is true, General Milley, why haven't you resigned?
Senator, as a senior military officer, resigning is a really serious thing. It's a political act if I'm resigning in protest. My job is to provide advice. My statutory responsibility is to provide legal advice or best military advice to the President, and that's my legal requirement. That's what the law is. The President doesn't have to agree with that advice. He doesn't have to make those decisions just because we're generals. And it would be an incredible act of political defiance for a commissioned officer to just resign because my advice is not taken. This country doesn't want generals figuring out what orders we are going to accept and do or not. That's not our job. The principle of civilian control of the military is absolute. It's critical to this republic. In addition to that, just from a personal standpoint, you know, my dad didn't get a choice to resign at Iwo Jima, and those kids that are at Abbey Gate, they don't get a choice to resign. And I'm not going to turn my back on them. I'm not going to resign. They can't resign, so I'm not going to resign. There's no way. If the orders are illegal, we're in a different place. But if the orders are legal from civilian authority, I intend to carry them out.
Thank you, Senator Cotton.
And not only is Mark Milley still employed at the very highest level, he is still lying, and doing so with his characteristic relish and enthusiasm. Today, for example, with an entirely straight face, Mark Milley delivered an impassioned lecture about the importance of civilian control of the military. Quote, "This country doesn't want generals figuring out what orders we're going to accept or do or not. That's not our job." Oh, really? Is that so, Mark Milley? Isn't this the same Mark Milley who once illegally seized personal control of our country's nuclear arsenal? And then when that wasn't sufficient, promised to tip off the government of China about future American military operations. And did all of this because he didn't like his boss, who, unlike him, was, yes, a civilian, elected by voters. Yep, that's the very same Mark Milley, the one lecturing you today about civilian control of the military. It was all pretty amusing in a dark way, but it did make you wonder, what is this about? Why is Mark Milley saying something so obviously preposterous? It's got to be helping him in some way. And indeed, it was helping him. What you watched in the Senate hearing today was pure blame shifting. Joe Biden's foreign policy is a legitimate disaster. Nobody disputes that. But Mark Milley wants you to know that none of it is his fault. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin wants you to know that too. So does the head of Central Command, General McKenzie. All three of them want to make it crystal clear that the senile guy in the White House did this. It's his fault, not theirs. It was Joe Biden, they told us today, who forced American troops to leave Afghanistan before we evacuated all American citizens. And because the Pentagon reflexively, in every case, follows every order to the letter from the sitting president, they had no choice but to obey these crazy decisions.
So that's Tucker Carlson, and that's my video, and I am signing out. Join us on theduran.locals.com. Follow us on the new media platforms, BitChute, SuperU, ODYSEE, and Rumble, and go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, a cool magic mug here, 10% off. Use the code REALNEWS. I'll put those links underneath the video down below, and I'll also put them in a pinned comment as well. Take care.